Mr. Byrne?
Here.
Mr. Marcarian?
Here.
Mr. Fry?
Here.
Mrs. Korn?
Here.
Mrs. Gray?
Here.
Mrs. McCune?
Here.
Mrs. Wooldridge?
Here.
Mr. Syed?
Here.
Mrs. Swerner?
Here.
Madam President?
Item number 6 is the statement of public notice. I'm not going to read it to all of you, but if you are interested in seeing what it has to say, there are agendas on the stage at the front. You can read through the whole thing. I will remind everyone there are 2 times during our meeting this evening when the public can comment to the board. During the first public comment session, you can address the board on any agenda item. Please don't forget to state your name and address. Limit your comment to 5 minutes or less, and then sign in when you're done. The second public comment session, you can address the board on anything that is on your mind, and we look forward to hearing it. With that, I think we are up to Mr. Miller, our student representative. What do you have for us tonight?
Thanks. So my quick update today is going to be focused on the seniors mainly, because as the year kind of wraps up, there's a lot of fun stuff happening. So today was the first day that yearbooks were distributed. So that was an exciting day. Not much work got done, but the yearbooks are really well done as usual. And that's going to bring us up to the senior dinner, which is this Friday, June 9th. And there it's kind of like a yearbook signing dinner, and they're also going to tell us information about graduation practice, which is going to be held next week, Thursday and Friday. After the practice, there's also an ice cream social, and then the actual graduation, as I'm sure you're aware, is Friday the 16th, and I believe I'll be seeing you there if I graduate. Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Miller? As always, you are welcome to hang out with us all night, but if you'd prefer to go home and do something else, you are welcome to leave as well. Thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing you at graduation.
Thanks.
All right. Next, we have some great stuff coming up, a Project Citizen student presentation and some recognition. So I'm going to ask the board to go sit in the audience where we will remain until we get back to superintendent's report.
Good evening. So it's always so nice to recognize students for so many accolades, and so we'd like to talk to our community about some of the exciting things going on in our curriculum. And every year we get to hear from our Honors Gov and Econ students, and each year a winner is selected for the Project Citizen project, and very excited to have Thomas Liska with us, who is a fabulous social studies teacher. He's been with us a few years. And they're going to talk to you about this civic-related project where students identify a particular problem in a community and try to make some suggestions for how to improve it. So for students in the room, this particular issue is actually very relevant because it affects all student drivers under the age of 21. So I will turn it over to Tom, who will speak to you a little bit about the project.
All right, good evening. Thank you for providing us an opportunity to speak with you tonight. For those of you who don't know, Project Citizen is a year-long curricular program sponsored by the Center for Civic Education that is designed to promote competent, responsible participation with government at all levels. The program helps participants learn how to monitor and influence public policy while developing support for democratic values and principles. Our main goal with this project is pretty much to prepare students to be active citizens outside of the classroom by looking at problems that affect their daily lives and practice the skills needed to necessarily come up with solutions. Our Honors Government Economics class has been part of this program for quite some time, and last year we were chosen to represent New Jersey at the national level. This year, after class nominations and evaluations conducted by the high school rich teachers, we are delighted to share with you the efforts of one group in particular. They will get into more detail about how Project Citizen works And in particular, they're going to showcase, focus, as you guys can see on the board, their chosen topic of Kylie's Law. I'd like to introduce to you guys Julia, Megan, Maggie, Alexa, and Claire. Come on up, guys.
All right, Project Citizen is a program for students and other youth organizations that promotes active citizenship and participation in local and state government. Overall, Project Citizen helps participants learn how to monitor public policy and make a change in their community and their state. Project Citizen also helps students develop their own political stances and democratic values. So during this process, classes or small groups identify key problems in the community or state, and they work together to research the problem, develop their own solution regarding public policy, and create an action plan that displays how their policy would be adopted. Overall, Project Citizen is a year-long project that requires consistent group work, and there's 4 steps. So step 1 is preliminary research and identifying an issue. Step 2 is in-depth research. Step 3 is synthesis, where you put all the information together. And then the final step, step 4, is creating a website, where you highlight the most important information and your action plan.
So the topic we decided to do for this project was Kylie's Law. If you're not familiar with it, it's the law that regards the probationary drivers, which entails the red decals, the 1 person in the car, and the curfew. And so the problem originated from when Kylie D'Acello, she was driving and she died in her car, and her mother was obviously very upset about this, so she took to the state legislation to create a law that would help other people recognize the underage drivers that are on the road, to make notice of other people so that they can see what they're dealing with and how, they can notice that there's underage people on the road. So the first impression that they thought that this would have was that other people would be aware of the probationary drivers, and that they would be able to recognize them and be aware that there's underage people who may not be as experienced drivers on the road. But really, this has had some negative consequences that we've seen in our research, and we've seen that becomes a lot of bias with police officers, because now they're able to target these underage drivers, and knowing that they're unexperienced, they may ticket them more for something, or they're more likely to pull them over because they might be doing something wrong. Also, there's a scary thing with the predators following the cars with the red decals, because there are young drivers, and unfortunately there are some people out there with bad intentions, so they will follow these cars, and that has happened. We've seen it a lot in our research, so we were really passionate about this section of the law with the decals, because we don't feel safe as drivers that we are. We didn't feel safe with the stickers on the back of the car, so that's what we are really passionate about, and that is our topic.
Okay, so we came up with 3 alternative solutions, and the first one that we ultimately chose in the end was to take the stickers away. This would eliminate the fact that we feel discriminated against. It would eliminate the aspect of predators and police officers targeting young drivers, and we feel that all of the other aspects should remain as part of the law. We understand the curfew, we understand that there should only be 1 person in the car, and of course we understand that no one should have handheld electronics or be texting and driving. So we felt that if we simply get rid of the decal aspect of the law, then we would be much happier and feel much safer on our roads.
The second alternative that we found was leaving it to the parents, and basically this would allow parents to indicate on a car's registration that there's a new driver in the car who has just received their license or is under the age of 21. Basically, this would allow police officers during routine registration checks on cars' license plates to know that there is a new driver in the car, but it also eliminates the ability for predators to see that there's a red decal on the car indicating that there is a driver. So this was a great alternative because police officers are able to know that there is a new driver and can monitor them and ensure that they're safe on the roads, but also eliminate the fact that predators could follow the car and know that there's an underage driver.
So our third and final alternative was to eliminate the fines. This would allow the teens and parents to choose whether they want the red stickers on their car. So this would give them a choice without consequences. And out of all these three solutions, like Alexa said before, we chose our first one, which would just take away the red stickers, because this would eliminate the bias that teens experience from police officers and also eliminate the threat of predators following any young drivers that they see on the road. And again, this would only take away the red stickers. This would not take away the curfew or the rule of only one person in the car, but only eliminate the red decals.
All right, so our action plan is for parents of 16 or 17-year-olds and the children themselves to promote the solution and encourage the policy-making processes. So in the policy-making process, policymakers are essential to pass new laws and hear the opinions of members in their community. So good communication and an understanding of the state's wants and needs are very necessary in this process, and they need to be accomplished. And overall, we will encourage drivers to stop using their decals as a way to peacefully protest until our plan is put into action.
So through our research, we found that 64% of New Jersey citizens do not support Kylie's law, and we found that there's 3 ways that young people and citizens of New Jersey can influence state legislation. So the first is through schools, just really talking to teachers and having them fill out petitions, and students, and really spreading word on social media. Sophomores in New Jersey are required to take driver's ed, so through driver's ed, teachers could educate students that there are negative effects to Kylie's law. In the community, we really want to draw on the fact that we have to appeal to the public's emotion, and we really need to persuade policymakers that there are negative effects to Kylie's law. And then through social media, joining a Facebook group or doing an online petition or starting a hashtag can really influence policymakers, and that's really the main priority that we need to do, because our state legislative needs to be influenced through our public opinion.
So looking back on the entire process of Project Citizen and choosing Kylie's Law, I think for me and for everyone else up here, it was really important that this was something that we could relate to. And we're 16 and 17-year-old drivers. We are supposed to be using the red stickers, and it's something that we can see the change happening. And I think that instead of starting out as just a history project that we need to do for an entire year, it's something that we're passionate about, and it's a project that we can see how much work needs to be put into it to even get somewhere, and now at this point, we're starting to make a difference.
I think a really important part of this project is that we were all able to feel really passionate because it affects each and every one of us as we become new drivers on the road. One thing we all learned through this project is that although sometimes it feels like you can't make a change and you can't do anything to change something you don't like in your society, we saw that through hard work and voicing your opinions, you were able to say how you feel and hopefully make a change. And this was something that a lot of times, a lot of teenagers don't think that they can do, but this project really allowed us to see how we can make the change.
I also think that it was really important that we were able to pick a topic that we could really get in depth with, because if we're going to spend a year, like we said before, on this project, we should be willing to put in the best effort that we can. And knowing that we wanted to pick something we were all really passionate about, and since almost all of us are driving now, I think it's become more apparent. And I think in the high school too, there's a lot of drivers who feel the same way as we do, like we said before, like through the research in our survey. And like Maggie said too, I think it's really important that high school kids know that they have a voice with these kind of things, because I often think that, oh, like it's one voice, not everyone, like if it's just me doing it, then I'm not really gonna get anything done. But if you kind of get a group together and you really work for it, I think you can get the goal. And speaking your voice, it's, we don't know if, like, how far we're gonna go in this, but I think we're all like pretty proud of what we've done, because we've put in a lot of work and hard effort, and I think it's really important to see that everyone has a voice in these kind of things. We would just like to thank the board once again for letting us come and speak. So, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Liska, girls, thank you. That was great. Good job. Thanks for coming out tonight. We're going to move our agenda along at this point. We have some student recognition awards this evening, and we are going to start with our military awards. And here with us this evening is Mr. William Cook, who's here to present the Dwight D. Eisenhower Leadership Award. So, Mr. Cook.
First of all, I'd like to thank Bev Swarner and the other board members and Nick Markarian, the superintendent, for having me here tonight. My name is Bill Cook, and I'm a resident of Basking Ridge. I'm also a 1967 graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point. I'm here today representing the West Point Society of New Jersey. It's an organization of graduates and friends of West Point who live in the state. Every year we sponsor the Dwight D. Eisenhower Leadership Award at about 100 schools throughout the state. The purpose of the award is to recognize an exceptional high school junior who demonstrates outstanding performance in the areas of academics, athletics, community service, good citizenship, and leadership. The awardee is selected by the school principal and staff. We have nothing to do with the selection. The award includes a certificate for the student and a permanent plaque that's held at Ridge High School, and then there's a name plaque that's put on there every year. Ridge High School has been presenting this award since 2014. Previous winners include Brendan Hennessy. Brendan will be reporting to the Air Force Academy in a few weeks. Katie Boyle. Katie Boyle is a student at Boston College. She will be reporting to the Naval Academy in a few weeks. And Victor Castagno. Victor is going into his junior year, or cow year we call it, at West Point. This year's awardee is Isabella Salen. I'd like to read a few accomplishments, but it's only a few of the things that she's accomplished. The Ridge newspaper, she was the feature editor. Ridge Model UN, she was vice principal. Ridge Sports, she was on the girls' varsity golf team. The Biomedical Research Institute of New Jersey, she was an intern volunteer. UNICEF Charity Fund, she was a coordinator. Community Food Bank of New Jersey, involved in all aspects. The Connection, she was involved there assisting children with disabilities for the purpose of helping them for Special Olympics. She was a founder of Sur del Mundo Initiative. This is a multifaceted charity that's involved with health education, and food supplies within Chile. She has been selected and attended the U.S. Marine Summer Leadership Character Academy. She has been selected and will be attending in just a few days the Summer Leadership Experience at West Point. And ironically, the Victor Castagno, who I'd mentioned before, will probably be in the cadre helping them along. It goes without saying that her academics were commensurate with her achievements. I'd like to read her certificate. The mission of West Point, the mission of the United States Military Academy at West Point is to educate, train, and inspire the Corps cadets so that each graduate is a leader of character, committed to the values of duty, honor, and country, who is prepared for a career of professional excellence and service to the nation as a commissioned officer in the United States Army. In furtherance of that mission, the sponsors named herein have established the Dwight David Eisenhower Leadership Award. This award recognizes those high school students who have demonstrated excellence in character by virtue of their achievements in academics, athletics, community service, citizenship, and leadership. The sponsors of the Dwight D. Eisenhower Award congratulate you on earning this award, named for the 34th President of the United States and himself a graduate of the United States Military Academy, and hope that you continue to inspire yourself and others as you strive for excellence in the career, in character in your every endeavor. Congratulations, guys. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Congratulations, Isabella. Next up, we have from the Marine Corps, Sergeant Brandon Whitlock, who's here to present several other military awards.
Good evening, everybody. Like he said, I'm a staff sergeant Whitlock with the Marines here in Somerville. So I'm here today to pass out a couple of awards, but I definitely appreciate the superintendent, the board, and also your school for allowing me to be here tonight. Now, my purpose is to give out 5 of these awards, like I said, but nothing in the Marine Corps is ever going to be given. It's going to be earned. You're going to have to work very hard for these and work very diligently and ultimately display the 3 core values of the Marine Corps, which is honor, courage, and commitment. So first, I would like to call R.J. Milligan to the stage. R.J. is this year's Ridge High School male nominee for the Semper Fidelis All-American Award. This award recognizes juniors who embody the same fighting spirit that Marines stand for by taking on the challenges of succeeding academically while bettering their community and excelling in athletics. RJ is a 2-sport varsity athlete in football and lacrosse. He's in the first team all-conference at Ridge's starting fullback and led the football team to the state playoffs this past season. RJ is a defensive midfielder on Ridge's lacrosse team, which recently competed in the New Jersey State Tournament semifinals. RJ balances his intense athletic commitments with excellence in the classroom as well. He maintains a 4.1 GPA while pursuing a rigorous schedule of 8 honors courses and 2 AP classes. He hopes to major in business or economics and is a top football recruit by selective universities all across the country. RJ demonstrates a passion for performing at his best in all arenas. RJ demonstrates a passion for dedication to contributing, to the success of his teammates and classmates, where he aspires to inspire excellence. Congratulations. Next, I'd like to call Patrick Bayou to the stage. Patrick is this year's male recipient of the Distinguished Athlete Award. Patrick is a 3-sport varsity athlete in cross country, winter, and spring track. While his junior year spring track season is still underway, Patrick recently qualified as an individual for the 1,600-meter event in the New Jersey State Tournament Meet of Champions. He's also a member of Ridge's 4x800-meter relay, will compete at the Meet of Champions as well as the New Balance Outdoor Nationals later this month in Greensboro, North Carolina. Patrick has been named captain of next year's cross-country team. He hopes to continue his running career in college and is currently being recruited. Congratulations, Patrick. Next, I'd like to call Annabelle Pasarchik to the stage. So, Annabelle is this year's female recipient of the Distinguished Athlete Award. The Marine Corps has designated the Distinguished Athlete Award to be given to a student athlete with a never say die attitude, who epitomizes the adage, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. Annabelle is a 2-sport varsity athlete in basketball and lacrosse and has earned 5 varsity letters in 6 seasons. She was captain of this year's basketball team, where she's been a starting power forward for the past 2 seasons as well. She's also a 2-year starter on the lacrosse team playing midfield. Annabelle's coaches describe her as aggressive and coachable with a never-quit attitude. Congratulations. Next, I'd like to call Edward Hugh to the stage.
Edward is this year's recipient of the Semper Fidelis Award for Musical Excellence. The Marine Corps recognizes the achievements and sacrifices that musicians make, a tradition that dates back to when John Philip Sousa transformed the Marine Corps Band into the premier musical unit it is today. Edward has played trumpet for a total of 8 years. He has first chaired trumpet in Ridge's Wind Ensemble. He played in Ridge's Pit Orchestra production of The Addams Family, won a final nomination for the Rising Star Award of Outstanding Performance by an Orchestra. Edward also selected for the audition-based All-State Orchestra and Regent Orchestra. He is lead trumpet in the New Jersey Symphony Orchestra, Academy Orchestra, and has performed at the Carnegie Hall. Edward is first chair trumpet in Ridge's marching band that won the 2015 New Jersey State Championship. He's also selected for the audition-based All-State Band and All-Regional Band. Edward exemplifies the highest level of dedication and enthusiasm of a musician. Congratulations, Edward. And last, but certainly not least, I'd like to call Hannah Peterson to the stage. Hannah is this year's recipient of the Scholastic Award. This award recognizes exemplary students who are role models to their peers in the classroom by reaching noteworthy academic achievements, demonstrating leadership excellence. Hannah has maintained a 4.1 GPA while taking a rigorous schedule of 10 honors courses and 3 AP classes. She loves physics and hopes to major in naval architecture. Hannah was recently elected president of the National Honor Society and is a 4-year peer leader with the Lindsay Meyer Teen Institute. Hannah sings in Ridge's select a cappella choir and is also a long-distance swimmer. Hannah is a 3-time varsity letter winner for Ridge's swim team and competes with the Somerset Hills YMCA swim team, where she holds the New Jersey YMCA Silver Championship record, the 1-mile freestyle event. Hannah is a scholastic leader who seeks to understand, listen, and learn from her teachers and her classmates. Congratulations, Hannah. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you so much and have a wonderful weekend.
Okay, thank you, Sergeant Whitlock. Congratulations to our students for those outstanding achievements. We're going to move it along to Mr. David Yastrzemski, who's here on behalf of the Ridge High Forensics team.
Thank you, everyone. This is always one of my most favorite times of the year because it really allows the entire community to be aware exactly of what our students have been doing and really share in the celebration of all their accomplishments this year. I thought I would share just a few of the topics that our students are debating at our national championships this year, and I ask all those present today to think about where you stand on these particular issues. A just government ought to prioritize civil liberties over national security. In East Africa, the United States federal government should prioritize its counterterrorism efforts over its humanitarian assistance. United States law should make it illegal to publish classified information concerning intelligence activities. And the people's right to know ought to be valued above the government's need for secrecy. And one of my favorites, science leaves no room for free will. Now, of course, all of you have rendered decisions after thoughtful reflection about all of the different research that has been published about these subjects. But this just goes into the levels of the work that these students do. And not only in the debate world, our speakers and performers speak on everything from post-traumatic stress disorder to the dark web, right back to Big Friendly Giants and summer camp antics, these students cover it all. And the one thing I love so much about this activity is it's not just about the competitive arena. It's really about educating charismatic and competent communicators who are going to take these skills well above and beyond the classrooms here at Ridge. Whether it's at the college level, the professional arenas, these students learn how to stand up, take the stage, use their voice in ways which will hopefully make a difference in the future. So tonight, I am thankful to Superintendent Markarian and Assistant Superintendent Sean Syatt, along with the entire staff of the board office that assist this team every year, and most importantly, the board, who approves all of our trips and supports us so that our students can have an opportunity which not many schools around this country can enjoy, but our students really are able to take the benefit and really learn from it, experience it, in order to take their skill and their level to the next stage. So tonight, I'm happy to introduce to you those competitors of our team, and this year was an interesting year. Many of you know that William Annan has started a team. That has really fueled a nice little pipeline to the Ridge team. So much so that this is the first time this year that we actually had near 120 students in the Ridge program. And this small selection of those students are those that have qualified through a very rigorous process at one of the 3 national tournaments, the Tournament of Champions, which is held at the University of Kentucky every year, the National Catholic Forensic League Grand National Tournament, which is held last weekend in Louisville, Kentucky, and also the National Speech and Debate Association National Championship, which is going to be held right after graduation in Birmingham, Alabama. We're also going to recognize the state champions in New Jersey this year, because New Jersey is, for as small as it is geographically, it is one of the strongest states within the country because of the phenomenal education that we have in this state. So I'm going to call them up individually, announce their response. And anybody that's been here before knows that we always basically give our applause in forensics by the 1 clap roll. So I will announce the student along with their accolades, and you will all respond. Board, I know you've practiced it already by giving them the 1 clap. Let's try it all together. Very nice. So, bringing them up, our outgoing president, TOC competitor, NCFL qualifier, National Speech and Debate qualifier, Daniel Faruqi. His sister, an NCFL qualifier and a freshman, Liba Faruqi. TOC, NCFL, and NSDA, Ms. Camille First. NCFL qualifier and NSDA qualifier, Udish Gadapati. TOC, NCFL, and NSDA qualifier, Mr. Kishan Gandham. TOC competitor and a freshman, Jimmy Gao. TOC competitor and NCFL qualifier, Rajan Gupta. NCFL qualifier and NSDA qualifier, Ms. Jennifer Huang. NCFL qualifier, Mr. Rohan Jankurtar. NCFL qualifier and a co-state champion, Mr. Vikram Kogati. TOC, NCFL, NSDA state champion, yeah, that's the quadfecta, Mr. Shankar Krishnan. Freshman TOC competitor and NSDA qualifier, Mr. Mason Crone. TOC and NCFL qualifier, Mr. Brandon Liu. TOC and NCFL qualifier, Ms. Anjani Mathur. NCFL qualifier, Mr. Raihan Mogi. NCFL qualifier NSDA and a state champion, Mr. Colin Montag. NCFL qualifier, Mr. Rehan Murad. NCFL qualifier, Ms. Sonali Pai. NCFL NSDA qualifier and a TOC qualifier, Ms. Malika Rabidran. NCFL qualifier, Mr. Sid Sassani. TOC qualifier and NCFL qualifier, Mr. Adit Roy. NCFL qualifier, Ms. Rebecca Shankman. Qualifier and NCFL qualifier, Ms. Chani Singhvi. TOC, NCFL, and an NSDA qualifier, Mr. Sunil Torani. NCFL qualifier, Ms. Hanas Usadi. NCFL, NSDA, and a state champion, Ms. Drew Ivance. NCFL qualifier, Mr. Alan Wang. TOC competitor and qualifier, Mr. Kyle Watkins. TOC, NCFL, and a state champion, and just ranked 4th at the National NCFL Championship out of over 200 competitors, Ms. Lucy Way. NCFL qualifier, Mr. Albert Wen. NCFL qualifier, Mr. Brian Wen. NCFL and NSDA qualifier, Mr. Albert Wu. Can we give a big round of applause? And Miss NCFL and NSDA qualifier, Miss Anvita Prasad. Let's give a big round of applause to these individuals, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, thank you to everyone who supports this team, parents, board, administration, we greatly appreciate. Faculty as well, your support in the classroom as well as throughout this entire school helps motivate them each and every week that they compete. Thank you, everybody.
Congratulations, guys. Great job, Mr. Yastrzemski. One of the few people that just by your talking makes me break into a sweat. Good job. All right, the board's going to head back on up for the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
All right. What an impressive bunch of students, as always. I am thrilled they were here, and I'm even more thrilled they are gone because no one likes public speaking in front of these students who speak so articulately all the time. We are up to item number 10, Superintendent's Report. May I have a motion for one item, please? Mrs. Wooldridge, may I have a second? Mr. Fry? Mr. McLaughlin, may we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Byrne?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Fry?
Yes.
Mrs. Korn?
Yes.
Mrs. Wooldridge?
Yes.
Mrs. McCune?
Yes.
Mrs. Swerner?
Yes.
Madam President?
All right, I believe our superintendent does have some reporting to do.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Werner. Just briefly, I wanted to mention to everyone that as part of our district goals, we've been doing some survey work, and I just want to thank, I know many of the board members have received invitations to complete surveys, many members of the public have as well, and I just wanted to thank everyone for their continued response to the variety of surveys that we've put out there, everything from how you like new courses such as American Sign Language or other courses that have run for the first time this year, to a program of evaluation surveys, to most recently a letter that I sent out with regard to school climate surveys, where we've asked parents to respond to their feelings about school climate that their children are enrolled in. And if none of these sound familiar, I will send out a reminder about the climate surveys in particular this week. I'll send a reminder out to ask people to do those and make sure that those links are available for everyone. I can actually add those onto our homepage because I don't think they're up there now, but I'll be happy to do that. And I just wanted to say thanks for that because I know that we get a little worried sometimes about survey burnout. So I certainly appreciate everyone being steadfast because the feedback that we get from the community is very valuable and something that we can share out once we get it all collated. So thank you very much for your efforts on the behalf of those surveys and our district goals.
Great. So we are now up to item number 11, which is public comment on agenda items only. Is there anyone who would like to address the board on any of our agenda items? All right. I'm waiting. Okay, so public comment on agenda items is closed, and we're now up to the approval of the minutes. May I have a motion, please? Mr. Fry, second Mrs. Wooldridge. Can we have a vote, please?
Mr. Byrne?
Yes.
Mrs. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Fry?
Yes.
Mrs. Korn?
Yes.
Mrs. Wooldridge?
Yes.
Mrs. McCune?
Yes.
Mrs. Swerner?
Yes.
Madam President.
We are now up to committee reports, starting with Finance. May I have a motion, please, for Finance item number 1? Mrs. Woldridge, second. Mrs. Korn. Mrs. Woldridge, do you have anything to report before we vote?
No, Finance is meeting June 14th.
Any questions about the item before we vote? All right, roll call, please, Mr. McLaughlin.
Mr. Byrne,
Yes.
Mrs. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Fry,
Yes.
Mrs. Korn,
Abstain.
Mrs. Wooldridge,
Yes.
Mrs. McCune,
Yes.
Mrs. Swerner.
Yes.
Madam President.
We're now up to Personnel Committee. Is there anything to report, Mrs. McCune?
Yes, the Personnel Committee met on May 18th. We discussed a number of personnel items, and then we discussed the fact that we are going to be anticipating the approval of the non-aligned contracts for the non-aligned staff. That's the staff members that are in the central office and some other staff members that are not part of the associations. So that should be coming up on the agenda for the 19th. We also had a discussion about Effective School Solutions, which is a organization that provides services for students in districts who need mental health and psychological services or special services. This is a company that provides staff members to school districts, and they would have a caseload. The goal of this type of program is to possibly keep some students in district or bring students back to district in order to provide services here in our own district, while freeing up our other staff members in the counseling department and the SACs to work with all the rest of our students. We heard from the Effective School Solutions people, and we're investigating hiring them. Mr. Markarian's looking into their contract to see how all the details come out. I think the committee felt that it seemed like a creative way to provide services for students in our district. One of the things that we liked was that they have a whole curriculum and a whole program already developed, and they can provide training. They have all these modules already made. They can provide training to all the staff members that would help them with all of the students, and to parents. They had a lot of materials and things like that, which seemed they would be very beneficial to our entire community. And so we will hear further about that at a later date.
Any questions? All right, so we are now up to Policy Committee report. Anything to report tonight, Mr. Fry?
No, we reported out the last meeting, and our next meeting is next week.
Great. All right, Curriculum Committee, Mrs. Gray?
The Curriculum Committee met with a special topics agenda on May 25th. Those minutes are not quite ready yet, and I'll be reporting out at the next meeting.
Great. Advocacy. Mrs. Richmond is not here yet. Did she leave? I know we just met this morning, so I would imagine there are no minutes yet. Liaison reports. I know that Mrs. Wooldridge has a report.
Okay, I just wanted to mention some dates that I learned from the Community and Crisis Group. So on October 10th, there's going to be a Community and Crisis Town Hall at Bernards High School with Somerset County Prosecutor Mike Robertson, plus several other people. The topic will be opiate addiction. This event was originally scheduled for March 2016, but it was postponed due to the big snowstorm. And then for 2018, on January 31st and February 1st, Dr. Bradley will be coming back to our district. He'll be speaking at Ridge High School on January 31st about teen stress and resilience. The audience is high school parents. And then the next night, February 1st, he will be speaking at Bernards High School about the same topic, but this time the target audience is middle school parents. These presentations are open to not only Basking Ridge community members, but also Bernardsville and Bedminster, as well as Peapack and Gladstone. And these presentations are funded jointly by Community and Crisis and all the different school PTOs that are participating. And a future goal is to set up a program on drug education for middle school parents that is similar to the very well-received drug education programs that took place at Liberty Corner School recently.
Thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Wooldridge? All right, so we have an addendum. It's actually item number 19 on the addendum, and that's to report out on our social emotional learning committee. So I know there were multiple people who are going to report out. You guys can decide who gets to go first.
Yeah, we're going to go in date order.
Okay,
So
go
we're
for it.
actually going to be reporting out on like four meetings. This is the last time we would do it this way. From now on, we'll report out on each meeting as it takes place. So the first meeting of the ad hoc SEL committee was on May 1st, and that was more or less an organizational meeting. And we basically, we decided that our purpose was to coordinate and communicate social emotional learning initiatives that support district goal number 2, which is to improve the social emotional health and well-being outcome for students, to analyze and research specific social emotional learning initiatives that are not being handled in other committees, for example, teacher grading policies and practices and the high school schedule, to communicate with the board about social emotional learning initiatives and report out to the public at board meetings, and serve as a liaison group to Parents for Change and other parent and community groups. So a couple of the topics we did touch on briefly were the school climate surveys, which are actually now available for everyone to fill out. We talked about some of the teacher grading policies and practices, and mostly deciding like that we were going to address them at future meetings. Mr. Syed gave us an update on the grading from the Inside Out book. He said that he expected to have all teacher feedback by June 20th, and that we will review the results at the July 24th board meeting. And we came up with some additional topics for discussion, and then that was the end of that one. And then the committee met again on May 12th, and 2 representatives from Effective School Solutions came to give us a presentation, and basically Mrs. McEwen just reviewed the Effective School Solutions information. It was also discussed at personnel. Okay, let's see what else we did. Sorry. Okay. We also talked about, in the area of teacher grading policies and practices, we talked about curving and about how teachers have ways to manage the class average, but not all teachers are grading their assessments in the same way. Some teachers curve, some provide extra credit, allow students to do test corrections, and so forth. And the committee looked at section B4 of the homework policy. And let's see, we decided to wait on certain other topics until the next meeting, which Mrs. Gray is going to report out on, I believe. Yeah, the 23rd.
23rd, yeah.
Mine was the last.
Or which is next?
She's next.
Yeah, okay. And let's see, we also talked a little bit about some ideas that had come from the Parents for Change group, and some programming possibilities for next year for parents.
Thank you. Next.
Our next meeting was May 23rd. The first topic of discussion was summer assignments. There had been some public comment at the meeting the night before, conveniently. So we reviewed, or we discussed which courses have summer work, and it turns out quite a few. Every math, science, and English language arts course has a required summer assignment. Some social studies and world language courses also have summer assignments. So many students have as many as 5 or more classes in which they have summer work.
A little closer.
Oh, sorry. This particular discussion focused mainly on 3 aspects of summer work. Packets assigned over the summer and graded upon return to school without students having received instruction on the material or without having had the opportunity to ask questions or make corrections on that work. The second area was annotations and graphic organizers, and the third one was the philosophy of grading summer assignments. It was agreed that with the school year coming quickly to an end, there was only so much that could be addressed. We discussed the summer science coursework centered around the numerous challenges of completing the assignments when the students haven't really had instruction in those areas of content like physics or chemistry in advance of taking the course. Mr. Markarian indicated that he would like students to have every opportunity to earn full credit for their summer assignments so as not to start the school year with a low grade. The requirements for English language arts and math were reviewed individually by course. It was understood that the math summer work was essential, and so there wasn't a whole lot of discussion on that. There seems to be commonality in the way those are addressed upon return to school. When the students come in, they have some type of an assessment, a quiz or something that demonstrates their understanding. They do have an opportunity to review the work and get assistance to make corrections. As far as English language arts, the work varies by course. All courses have at least one required summer reading selection, and they are expected to do annotations and/or a graphic organizer. There's concern that the practice of annotation detracts from the enjoyment of reading. Yeah, I'm not going to, this was the lead-in. There's more information to follow, so stay tuned. So basically where we landed was that Mr. Hunter, our supervisor of language arts, was not present for this particular meeting, so we deferred this topic to the following meeting. But we did agree that we would evaluate the scope of summer work to determine how much is spent per level just broadly, and that will be discussed at a later time, not to be impacting this summer. There was discussion about the regulation for policy 2330, which deals with homework, and we expected to get a greater understanding of the expectations of annotations. The next topic was group work, always a favorite. We looked at the policy 2624, and then we discussed the following concerns. There are concerns that run the gamut. Group conflicts, when students are working in a group, can go undetected if students are not comfortable speaking with the teacher. There has been instances of students deleting other students' work or altering it without the permission of the other student. There was a question of peer grading as opposed to peer editing, and how that can be very detrimental to some students while beneficial to others. Partner tests came up as well, concerns about like students being paired, which can be stressful, and questions were asked about how it's determined what type of assignments will be done in groups. So there is further discussion to follow on that. The next topic was just about communication, staff and teacher and student communication, and it was agreed that after the completion of the book talks on grading from the inside out, we'll have more information from the survey that Mr. Syatt's conducting. And the last topic was homework. Specifically, what are the due dates when students are absent, regardless of the reason for an absence? And it was cited in the policy 2330, which is the homework policy. Pupils absent for any reason must make up assignments within a reasonable length of time, which in most cases shall be the same number of school days as days missed, but no less than 2 days. So the committee agreed that the policy is adequate as written, and discussed concerns that it seems more an issue of communication. So Mr. Markarian indicated that additional efforts will be made to review with the staff and the students the specific rule as outlined in both the staff and the student handbooks, and the same will be communicated to parents. And then the next meeting, Mrs. McEwen is going to report.
So the committee met again on June 1st, and we continued some of the same discussions. We did have a discussion first, before we got into the summer assignments, about the college matriculation board that's out in the hall at Ridge. We've heard feedback that the board causes a lot of stress. People start posting their colleges in the early in the fall as they get in early action or early decision. Other students are waiting, and they either may have gotten rejections from some of those same schools, or they haven't heard yet, and they're going to be waiting all the way through the spring. So Ms. Jadis recommended that instead of having the board be up all year and having people posting, to not have that board in that location, to replace it with some other display that would have a positive message for everyone, and then to have a list late in the school year after everyone's gotten into their colleges and made their decision that students can choose to have their names on, and it would be displayed in an alternate location in the school. The big discussion we had at the next meeting was about summer assignments. We got a lot of details from Mr. Hunter about the summer reading assignments and the purpose of annotations. He explained about how annotations are used starting in middle school. Students are taught how to annotate when they're reading in order to facilitate comprehension. And he, gave us like the philosophy of annotating and why it's an important skill for students to learn. The committee had questions about, the amount of annotations that some students seem to do in the summer. Like, there seems to be stress over how many notes do you have to take. Some students stressing out about having to have particular types of Post-its or certain styles of annotations. So we reviewed, there's a document that is on the summer reading assignment on the website that explains about annotating. I think some students don't click on it, or parents, when they go in there, they click on the books that the students are supposed to read, but they're not clicking on that document, because there's a lot of information in that document about how there's different styles of annotating, and if you bought the book, you can write it in the book. You don't have to use Post-its. You can do it whichever way works for you. We discussed the fact that there are just a couple classes, I think, that specifically state that the annotations will be graded when the students go back. And so I think there's not a lot of clarity among the students about whether they're annotating just so that they can complete their assignments when they go back, and or do the graphic organizer that comes with some of the assignments, which is usually a pretty short document where they have to put like 5 annotations on there and explain them. So I think there's confusion among some students about how many annotations they have to do and how much and what style, and then whether it's going to be graded when they get back. So we spoke with Mr. Hunter about having the teachers clarify whether or not the actual annotations themselves will be graded when the students go back, and to attach that document about how to annotate to all the assignments so that you can't miss it when you click into the assignments, so that nobody misses that document. Let's see. He also talked about the summer reading books that have been used over the years. He said that the amount of summer reading has remained relatively stable for at least 10 years. We actually limited the number of books for CP classes a couple of years ago to 2 books. Sometimes they used to have 3, and tried to add more selection to make the students have more choices that would be interesting to them. But other than that, the amount of summer reading has remained fairly stable over the years. So the takeaway items for that was to attach these guidelines about annotations document at the top of each assignment, to follow up with the teachers before the school gets out to make sure the students understand what is and isn't being graded and what their options are for annotating, because I think some of the students think they're supposed to be doing something above and beyond what is actually necessary from what I've seen and what we've heard. We did then have a discussion about math. And Karen already touched on some of that from the previous meeting, that there are summer assignments for pretty much every math course. Most of them are optional, except for the accelerated courses in middle school. However, the students are told, and there's a letter about this also on the website, which is also going to be embedded into the actual assignments, so no one can miss it either, explaining that the students, they will have an assessment when they come back in, which is like a baseline assessment so the teachers can see where they're at. And so if they do the summer packet, they may be more successful on the assessment in the beginning. The summer assignments are a review of stuff they've already had in other math classes. They're not supposed to be teaching themselves new material for the math packets. So it's a way for the students to review, and then when they come in, the teachers get an assessment of where they stand starting out. We talked about whether these assignments are graded and how they're graded, and that got us into a discussion about the homework policy as far as the summer grading of summer work. Right now, Ms. Wolf said that the summer assessments that at the beginning, the diagnostic skills assessments, count as 5% of the first marking period grade, and that as long as the student has completed the packet, they can have a redo on the test if they don't do well when they come in. So that gives them an incentive to do the packet. because then they'll get to do the redo. And we had a debate about whether or not that incentive was necessary or important, and I think most of us felt that if they didn't have any incentive, then probably they wouldn't do it. We then talked about the homework grading of summer packets in general. Some examples came up, which Karen mentioned, about like a science one, like mastering physics, where you haven't actually learned physics yet, and whether having a potentially bad grade on that starting off the marking period could be a problem. You know, if some students have help or tutors or siblings or whatever helping them with the summer assignments and others don't, it doesn't seem right that some students would start off with a big disadvantage grade-wise. So we then reviewed the actual policy for homework, which is policy number 2330, and added a section. This is the regulations for the policy. Added a section about summer work. It basically has a statement about the purpose of summer work. The purpose of summer work is to minimize summer learning loss through practice that reinforces skills and instruction from the prior school year, and also to prepare for coursework the students will be experiencing upon their return to school. We clarified that students entering grades K to 8 may have suggested summer reading or other optional opportunities to do on a choice basis. However, there'll be no mandatory assignments. The exception to this is the advanced math in the middle school. And then we talked about summer assignments in grades 9 to 12. And so the regulation now, this is a draft, which I assume is going to be reviewed in the policy committee, but it talked about how mandatory summer assignments that students have when they turn them in, if they're being graded, they should have a chance to improve their grade if it's something that they're handing in right when they get back to school. This does not apply to things that they might be doing 3 weeks later when, writing an essay about a book they read. That's different. This is just something that they did during the summer and didn't have a chance to ask for help or talk to the teacher or anything. We felt that to be fair, they shouldn't come in and end up with a bad grade and not be able to do anything about it. So we did clarify language in that, and after it gets sent to policy, then we'll review it, because the whole board hasn't discussed that yet, and the policy committee hasn't discussed it yet. But that's kind of what the discussion was about.
That it? Clearly, this committee has not been slacking. Board, do you have any questions of any of that thorough amount of information that has been reported out? Mr. Byrne?
I just have a comment. Number one, I could hardly understand nor hear. Secondly, you're probably talking 6 or 8 hours a meeting. I don't know how many hours you are. And you covered it in about 10 minutes, 5 minutes. I think you have to recognize that all of the board wasn't at that meeting. And if you had a lengthy discussion or a discussion at all, you have to relate. Here's one side, here's the other side. I could have gone home earlier. I couldn't understand, and not just the SEL committee, but I had difficulty with the personnel committee because we didn't talk about the details. And I think the committees, in my opinion, the committees have to do a better job of presenting, so the entire board, not just the 4 people that are at the committee meetings, can benefit from what went on at the committee meeting. So. My opinion is we have a problem as a board, and I don't know how the public can possibly understand. I doubt that they can. This is supposed to be public, and it's supposed to be for the whole board, not just for the 3 or 4 members at the committee. So that's my 2 cents.
May I?
You may.
Thank you. I'm going to start by saying you are correct. It was about 8 hours.
I can't even hear you.
It was about 8 hours worth of meetings, Mike. And each one of us who wrote minutes, Karen is not here, we're taking turns with the minutes because we all chair another committee that we write minutes for, painstakingly go through. I probably had 10 pages of handwritten notes, just because of the way I take notes, that fed into what I just shared with you. And it's distilled down to that which is the discussion followed by the result, whether the result is an action plan or whether the result is everything is fine as it stands. We have a policy in place. We just need to communicate it better. Whatever it happens to be, that information is provided to every board member in the form of minutes, which everyone receives, and it is incumbent upon everyone to read. And when they are read, if there are questions, it's incumbent upon each one of the 9 of us to call that committee chair and say, I don't know what this is about. Could you take some time to spend with me, to share with me what the conversation that led up to this is? 9 people can't meet for 8 hours we met 4 times in less than 3 weeks, I think. So there's no way, it's not feasible for 9 people to be doing that. And every discussion on any one of these could have lasted an hour, just that alone. It's not reasonable to have meetings going until 2 in the morning. So board members have to take responsibility for their job. Each one of us has one. If someone else is authoring minutes, then the other board members have to read them, and if they're comfortable with them, great, and if not, contact that board member and ask questions.
I have the SEL summary here. This is probably,
That's an agenda.
Well, guess what?
That's not the minutes. The minutes
Guess what?
are 4 and 5 pages long.
this alone, you can't do this in 5 minutes, folks.
We
You
didn't
have
do
to
anything in
communicate
5
not only
minutes.
to the committee, but to the members of the board that were not at that meeting, and you're not doing that. You're going through it real quick because you want to go home. I'm sorry, you have to explain the discussion and what the issues are. And you can't say policy 223.
Mike, do you have a specific question that you want us to go into more detail? Because we'd be glad to.
What did you say?
Do you have a specific question about one of the items
Yeah, I
that we
don't
just
know
talked
what
about?
else you talked about.
I'd just like to suggest, if there's an issue with hearing, if any board member has an issue with hearing, it would be helpful to everyone to bring it up while it's happening.
Yes.
So that because we did try to adjust one of the microphones because people were having trouble hearing. So if you have an issue with hearing things, please bring that up, and we'll try to attempt to make sure everyone can hear better. Because I have to say, I've been coming to Board of Education meetings professionally for about 30 years, and that was one of the most detailed committee reports that I've ever heard.
I'd like to test him on it, but I won't. Here's the Personnel Committee. So we have a graduate coursework requested.
Mike, those are personnel items that did not get discussed in public, some of them. So be careful before you start reading those off. Some of them are confidential
Well, I'm
personnel
being
items.
careful.
Okay.
But are these confidential?
So a lot of them are, which is why I didn't report out on them. I asked Sean which ones are okay to report out on, and those are the ones I reported out on.
So then we should talk about them in closed session, not keep them a secret.
You got the minutes, and if you want to talk about them, we could have.
Come on. I want to discuss some of this, and if it should have been discussed in closed session, I have no problem at all. But to not discuss it at all.
If next time when I send the personnel minutes, if there's something that you think should be discussed in executive session, then please contact Bev and Nick, and they'll put it on the agenda for executive session, and then we can talk about it.
All the curriculum and all the personnel reports, and now all the SAL reports, I would have to sit with the committee chairman probably for an hour on each one of your meetings. Now, if you want to do that, I'll be happy to spend the time. But I'm telling you, and I'm just one, if the other people don't have the problem, then that's fine. But
I'm going to go ahead
don't know
and
what you're
jump in
talking
then,
about.
because I don't have a problem at all. I appreciate the fact that